Oh, wait, we're live. Hey, everybody. How the heck are you? It's a beautiful day today. Look who it is. Tess Clark, Mythos Decoded. It's been a while. I've had a whole bunch of emails saying, where's Tess? Get her back on the show. Well, we had to wait for the perfect time, and she's been super busy. So, Tess, it is great to see you. How are you doing today?
I'm great. And how about you? And I hope your audience is also doing great.
Oh, yeah, we're doing fantastic. And so I just want to give a quick introduction to what we're going to be talking about today, folks. Um, Tess Clark, Mythos Decoded, and myself are going to unravel the shocking convergence of ancient prophecy, cosmic alignments, and the intensifying solar activity of 2025. From blood moons, eclipses, to solar flares and auroras in unexpected places, everything is pointing to a powerful shift. We're going to talk about solar cycle 25. It's intensifying faster than expected, and the magnetosphere is actually weakening substantially in certain locations, it appears. We've got magnetic, maybe not. We've got magnetic poles that are shifting rapidly, very bizarre. So, what's going on? And how does this relate to prophecy? Well, depending on the cycles that you follow and study and the research you've done in ancient mythology, such as Tess has been doing for years, it appears that certain prophecies are connecting to events that could happen this year, substantial events. So, Tess, let's talk about it. Real quick, though, before we get into that, folks, I did want to invite you to a petroglyph tour that's coming up here at the end of June. Diamond from Oppenheimer Ranch and myself are going to be exploring some really cool petroglyphs, several different panels. We're going to do a tour. It's going to be June 28th, close to the Four Corners region. If you've ever been to Mesa Verde or heard of Mesa Verde, it's outside of Mesa Verde area, Canyon of the Ancients. And we're going to explore some really cool ruins. Now, none of this is on the map. This is all off the map, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So click the link in the video description box and get your ticket or get your tickets. And also, a lot of people are looking for electromagnetic frequency protection, EMF protection. If you go to tinfoilcap.co, we have gear literally from head to toe that will block EMF radiation, even the 5G technologies. So check it out, tinfoilcap.co, and check us out over on Patreon. You can check out Tess on Odyssey, YouTube, as well as her website. I'm going to leave the links in the video description box. So, Tess, let's jump into this.
Okay. Well, yes, there's
What's been
lots
going on
going
in your
on.
world? What's been going on in your world?
Well, I guess we're all stuck in the same world, right? Pretty much.
Maybe.
Well, sort of. Yeah. I mean, well, if you turn on the TV, you probably are stuck in the same world that they create, of course. It's a created world that it's what they want us to see and focus on. We know that.
Yeah.
But yes, well, definitely there is some heightening up of the plasma phenomena that I have been checking. I don't know if people have noticed a lot of auroras, sometimes both on the north and south poles happening at the same time. And lately, and some red skies, very low latitude auroras, and just plasma formations that they are not auroras, but they look like auroras, and they have all these different names, like Steves, and then sometimes there's like a plume. It almost looks like the tail of a comet without the comet. And all this is due to the atmosphere around Earth getting more electricity incoming. And it could be from any source. It could be from cosmic weather coming from a distant star. It could be from a planet nearby that is connecting with Earth. As far as I understand, the universe is not neutral. Everything is electrically connected, which we're going to talk about actually these spiritual prophecies for 2025 that I had been looking into and listening to some people that are very, very knowledgeable on the subject. And they actually mentioned electricity as the divine connection that it's going to be together causing this spiritual awakening. So I thought, that's interesting that they're talking about science and how we're going to be learning about the electrical or the electricity, that everything is electrical. I thought that was really fascinating. But there are some disturbing connections with this new age. What is it? Well, the new age movement started a long time ago. As people know, it was 2012 when it got really heightened up. And I thought I was going to ascend. I talked about this many times. So I fell for it. And yes, I made some choices in my life that I regret, especially economically choices that now I'm like, oh, well, that was stupid. But anyway, so that has happened to many people. So I'm not falling for it again. And I'm very cautious whenever someone says, oh, we're going to turn into our 30-year-old bodies, all of us, or the aliens are coming and fixing everything up, and you don't have to do anything, just love and light, and
It's
eat
5D, man.
vegan, eat be vegan, and just meditate, sit there and love and light, and everything's going to be good. So even though I do believe that we have to have good thoughts, because we do affect the morphic field, which is the electrical current. Again, we're connected through electricity. Even though we're not one, we are sharing this space that affects each other. So I do believe that having or trying to stay sane and trying to have a good positive outlook on what is going on or what could be coming or how you treat people is important. We cannot affect everything to the point where we change things, because I've tried this before and it didn't work. I'm still here on this planet that is going through a very fascinating, scary, shitty, wonderful situations all over the world, and very exciting, but frightening also in a way. If you're not spiritually having a good foundation, it could be scary, and just lots of divide and conquer, as you know, Rex, and just a lot of hatred towards the people around the world, which is what they have always used as a technique to keep people fighting amongst themselves, each other, the little people, the peasants, the chattel, while the people in power are just doing whatever their plan is. And, they might mean well. They think they mean well. Sometimes they don't think they're doing anything wrong. It's the way that they have been brought up and programmed to believe that what they're doing is a good thing. So I don't think that everyone is bad.
Let me ask
It's
a question on that real quick, Tess.
Mhm.
Does it seem almost like there's a handbook that they have, or some type of guidelines and rules that they use that link up with possibly celestial events or planetary alignments or the zodiac in some way with the research you've done?
Definitely, they piggyback on events that are of cosmic origin. And for example, well, we'll get into I'm just going to read very little about, or just tell you just a very, very small information, and then we can discuss more about why and who and where and why and what are they doing, and if they're following a recipe. Definitely, they piggyback on catastrophes, cosmic events, because if people know my work, as I have studied the ancient philosophers and all these planetary connections to the kings and the gods, they always use planetary events to assert power over their subjects and the people that they were governing, because people would be, of course, very scared of anything, catastrophes or a giant, whatever, comet or volcanoes exploding or anything going on at the same time. They would be scared. So if they were told, we are controlling this and we are the planets and the cosmic weather is us, then of course these people would say, okay, so if I pay attention to you here on Earth, you are going to protect me from whatever is happening outside, from all the scary stuff that might be experiencing. And it seems like this is the way that history tells that is the common occurrence of catastrophes recurring on the planet, and wars. That's why all the wars and all the invasions and people, people moving desperately to other areas of the planet where they could survive. But anyways, so yes, and they know for some reason I have not heard the 2025 timeline, and I have not brought it up until just now. I have heard about 2030, 2031. We've all heard those dates for the
Apophis.
Yes, and the Agenda 2030 and Agenda 21, right. And yes, be careful, something might collide with Earth, and things don't collide physically. In my understanding, they interact electrically, which is bad enough. You don't need to have a planet colliding. I mean, there are bolides and there are fragments of things that are coming in and meteors. And yes, that definitely happens. But anyways, so all these things they use to whatever further their agenda. And then sometimes they change their power, the baton. You can see it in many paintings, ancient paintings. One group passing, or one tribe passing the baton of power to the next one. And they have been doing this. It's like an arrangement that they have. And sometimes there is inner fighting. But what I was going to talk about, the 2025, unless you want to say something, Rex, or ask anything.
No, let's get into 2025.
All right. So Alice Bailey and the Lucius Trust, which was called the Lucifer Trust. And remember, Lucifer...
Which just means light bearer, folks. Sorry, I just had to say
that. In my research, according to the ancients, he wasn't the devil with horns. That's what the church made it to be. Later on, he was a fallen angel, and he was beautiful. He was beautiful, redheaded, long hair, gorgeous, blue eyes and light fair skin, tall, beautiful. And it was just one of these bloodlines, or one of the cousins or brothers or sisters, well, this is a man in this case, that kind of was doing his own thing, and he was competing or going against or not following the orders of the main god at the time, or for these, they have their bloodlines and they go after it. They have the gods or the planets and the planets that they worship. And so this one is just one guy that was called Lucifer. So a lot of people know, especially people that follow Rudolf Steiner, and he was also linked to Madame Blavatsky, but this is also linked to the Alice Bailey and Madame Blavatsky, that are talking about the 2025 year, so now, this year, as a pivotal moment, very important moment for humanity, marked by a centennial conclave that may set the stage for profound spiritual and social change. And they talk about how there's also going to be many changes happening. And I'm thinking, are they talking about not just these social changes and, new governments, new AI, new forms of functioning, technocracy, Palantir, and all this interesting stuff, very, very cool and very scary at the same time. It could be amazing, but, how we use it. How are you using it? But they are talking about how this change is going to come with a lot of different changes. So I'm thinking, and then they're talking about electricity, and I'm thinking maybe they're expecting cosmic changes to start. I mean, they could be wrong. Remember that I've said comets are lawless, the lawless ones. They can never follow a clockwise calendar. And that's why people, even Jesus said, no one knows when the day of the judgment, the final days, are going to happen. Excuse me one sec. No one knows the day and the time, because things in space change. Nothing is, again, maybe there are some larger timelines or cycles, you could say, that repeat, but things can change. And that is just the way the universe is, and the planets. But anyway, so these people are talking about this.
So real quick, you your interpretation of when Jesus says nobody's going to know the time or the date is based upon the nature of certain asteroids and comets or bolides?
Well, it's very interesting. I actually was studying the whole what was going on with astronomically speaking during the time of Jesus, and yes. So what's going on is that there were different, in my understanding, and don't believe anything I said. Always do your own research, and I have the sources where you can go and read. But it seems to have what happened at that time. Saint John the Baptist, who was, if I am correct, the cousin of Jesus, and they were a little bit of a different bloodline. And then there was a third person who was also a Messiah. There had three Messiahs, so they were supposed to be like freeing the Jews at the time, and just defeating the Romans or whatever they were having problems with at the time. They were enslaved and all of this, and also with catastrophes. That's why there were famines at the time. St. John the Baptist and Jesus went away into the desert, and they were eating honey and locust because that was the only thing there was to eat, not because that's what they wanted to eat. So grasshoppers and honey. And I know that's where they got the idea. Somebody got that idea. Ooh, let's feed people grasshoppers. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they're expecting something more famines. I don't know. But it's interesting that happened then. And St. John the Baptist actually had prophesied the end of the world, or the day of the Lord, during the lifetime of Jesus. And he changed the prophecy of the day twice. And the last time, well, he wasn't correct. It wasn't happening. And Mars seemed to have been close to Earth and have caused the 3-hour long eclipse of the sun at that time. And there was earthquakes also in the area, in the Middle East, and probably around the world too. But they were talking just, recording those close by to where he was. And so, yes, they were expecting something bad, not the end of the world, like totally the whole world, because that never has happened except during the time of Noah, as far as I have read from the records. There have been many catastrophes. And Rex knows this, we've discussed this, and you too know this, if you remember what Plato was describing, all the different catastrophes, like 10 in recorded history of the Greek, and different floods in different levels. So the end of the world, or the coming of the Lord, or the day of the Lord, was definitely coinciding with catastrophes and planetary interactions with Earth and the sun and other planets, because everything is a circuitry. It's like an electrical circuitry. But what I was going to say also about the 2025, so besides they're talking that, so now this was written in 1959, I believe, and I'm going to post, if people want to follow me on Odyssey. I don't do anything else on YouTube, FYI. And there is a copycat now that started using my name for the first time. I just noticed Mythos Decoded. And it's nothing to do with what I talk about. They just have that name, and then they just like random videos. So people know that's not me. And I don't post anything anymore on YouTube. I do have a channel, but I don't post anything there. So go to Odyssey, and there I'm going to repost. I'm going to put the link to where all the stuff that I'm talking about, so you can get to it. And this woman, Courtney Turner, it's amazing. She's been, maybe Rex wants to interview her one day, I don't know, but she's really been studying this whole thing. So it has to do with going back to the spiritual activities of
Tess,
global.
we lost connection. Sorry, we lost connection for about 20 seconds. You said you had an imposter, and then we totally lost connection. I'm going to show off your Odyssey page, but if you want to just go back.
Okay, sure. Yes, on YouTube. I don't post anything on YouTube, but I did find someone is using the name of my channel, Mythos Decoded.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Odyssey. That works.
So you're on Odyssey now.
Right.
For the most part.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, great. So folks, I've got the links in the video description box, because Tess has a ton of amazing work, and it's, she posts all her stuff on Odyssey, or most of her stuff on Odyssey, plus her website. definitely want to check that out. And I think you said there's been some pretty big names actually that have been used in a lot of research you've been doing recently.
Yes, I am going to share a link from a woman, Courtney Turner, with the information that I have on my Odyssey page or web, what's it called, a channel. I can post different things, just anything like you can do an article or you can do videos. So sometimes I just post articles with links. So this one you can go to, and it has to do with the Bilderberg Group, Stockholm. Well, they're actually gathering in Stockholm, the G7 summit in Canada, the United Nations. So the interesting thing that she's going to talk about is that all this stuff that I'm talking about becoming one, the peace. Well, I mean, of course, we all want peace. So they use keywords that we, touch our hearts, because we do. If you're not a psychopath, you do want peace. You want everyone to be happy. You want justice. You want unity. Who doesn't? I mean, I don't know. But the problem is that all this is linked to the United Nations. So that's the red flag. And how are they going to use the technology, the AI? Are they going to make us all be in a noon sphere, whether it's called like a bees? The bees are all kind of like following the drone or the queen, and they're all kind of hypnotized. That's what they want? So that's kind of freaky. That's not like what the words unity and love and justice. So that is what is very interesting. So they have chosen, yes, using AI. And then there's Game B movement, something called the Game B movement, which advocates for cooperation, group-oriented solutions to global challenges, mirroring the Aquarian ideals promoted by Bailey's followers. So I think, there might be some bad changes that happen on the planet, and of course people are going to be desperate. So it begs the question, like, are they doing this to prepare people because this is the way they think that they can help people, that they can help their subjects, by doing all these terrible things that we think it's terrible, but they think it's really the way to do a better governing when the shit is hitting the fan, excuse my language, when things are not going easy on the planet. So that's something to ponder. And I don't know if really anything is going to happen, but they are going to be talking about all these. And it's linked to, the interesting part is that it's linked to the New Age movement. And Alice Bailey, Madame Blavatsky, that we are all one, let's meditate, sing Kumbaya, and everything's going to be okay. So I just thought it was really interesting.
It is really interesting. And I go back to an interview I did way back in the day. This was like 2013, I think, when I did this interview. As far as me doing interviews, when I say way back in the day, that's when I first started doing like podcasts and stuff like that. Actually, it was 2012, but in 2013, I interviewed a gentleman that wrote a book about a gathering of the elite and rich and infamous after the September events that took place. But they weren't talking anything about that event. They were talking about the future of society and actually genetically modifying humanity to where they were discussing taking out certain desires and wants from human nature. And very, very interesting, especially being 25 years ago when that took place, or 24 years ago. And now it seems like the technologies are there in the public realm to create a hive mind type. Here's the thing, though. I still see this being cyclical. It's kind of like the carrots at the end of the stick, where people are fearing this hive mind. I used to be that guy. I mean, geez, I used to fear the singularity and technology and AI more than just about anything. But now I've kind of learned to embrace it and realize there's certain limitations to everything. And as technology evolves, so does human nature. But we just have to stay on the path of, I guess, optimism. I think optimism and thinking positive thoughts, because There's always an organization behind the scenes that's trying to do something for their own agenda that might be considered nefarious. And how much power do we give them? The universe is a pretty big place. So as these cycles happen, every action has an opposite and equal reaction. But there's definitely some big events that I see on the horizon with the atmosphere and the magnetosphere and the sun and these solar storms. It's very interesting. And you've been doing a lot of research on that and the positions of where the Earth is going to be and Jupiter and such. I was hoping we could talk about that as well. What are the prophecies showing for 2025 and beyond with the planetary events?
Well, so we saw that these people think that something big is going to happen in 2025. This whole new age movement for the, like I just mentioned,
they're seeing something happening actually as well, like a big event. Not are they just talking about it, but you think they think something's going to happen this year too? Wow.
Yeah, that's what they said. That 2025 there's going to be big changes happening on the planet and spiritual changes happening. And that's why all these people are getting together, all these people that I mentioned, all these big groups that we know of, think tanks, are coming together and discussing everything that, that these people mentioned, Alice Bailey. And another thing that is interesting is that, yes, the orbit that we have talked about, it's a 575-year orbit of Earth that has been pinpointed by historians. And I'll thank you to the people that are on your chat, saying hello and thank you to me. Yes, I send them a lot of love and gratitude for being here and being open to my work, to what I have to say. And so Earth goes between the sun and Jupiter since about 500 BC. That's when they first noted that this happens every 575 years. So almost 600 years, the Earth comes back and forth between the sun and Jupiter. And every time we go towards Jupiter, and remember, we have to go still 120 years, about 120 years to get to the closest to Jupiter. So we're not there yet. But usually we encounter, so imagine Jupiter is here and it has all these moons, right? The moons, which keeps capturing. So new moons are captured every year, every month of the time. And then there's the asteroids that go between Jupiter and the sun and Jupiter and Earth. There are many asteroids. And these asteroids means that they are going, and they're like planets. They could be different sizes. And they can go between, they go between two planets. That's why they are called asteroids. They don't just orbit one planet, which I talk about the helical universe, or spiraling behind the star or the planet, just like our moon. Our moon doesn't really go flat around Earth. It's kind of like a little bit like in an orbit that it's elliptical. That's why it gets larger and smaller, and it's a little bit behind. So it's kind of like not totally like a flat pancake. It kind of moves like in a spiral, and every planet does the same thing. So people can understand it's not so simple to say, it goes like one straight line. No, it's all spiraling currents. And so we are encountering, as Earth moves between these two. So Earth would be considered an asteroid, I think, according to what is an asteroid, because it's not just according to the ancients. And that's why the ancients worshipped Jupiter before, around the time of Pythagoras, which was 530 BC. The Tower of Jupiter, and Jupiter was the god worshipped. It wasn't our sun. They were worshiping Jupiter, and you would think, why Jupiter? What's so important about Jupiter? And they were initiated into the school of the secret knowledge of Jupiter. That's what it was called, like Pythagoras and the ancient Egyptian knowledge. So by the time of Jesus, that was around, the last time we were close to Venus, at that time before Jesus, was, if I remember correctly, 28 BC. 28 BC. So that's pretty close to the timeline of Jesus, because that means that we were close to Jupiter and Venus. Why Venus? Venus seems to also have an orbit together with Earth, and that's why this beautiful flower pattern that you can see of its orbit, like a pentagram, actually. It forms a pentagram, and maybe that's why it's its symbol. It comes together, goes together with Earth towards Jupiter, towards Mars. And first Earth encounters Jupiter, and then about 100 years later, or comes close to Jupiter. It doesn't encounter it like crashing, never. It's seen very close, and then it affects, it interacts with Earth. And it happened also in 1500 BC, according to Velikovsky and other people and the historians. And Noah Webster, who that's where I found the information about the 575-year cycle of Earth, and interacting with Venus, then Mars, and coming close to Jupiter. He mentioned that that was probably also happening since the time of Moses. And but you know what happened, a lot of catastrophes during the time of Moses. But then what I was going to say is that, so Jesus, remember, so first Venus, and that's the time of Julius Caesar. And Julius Caesar was depicted with a shield of Venus, and he said he was a descendant of the goddess Venus, or Aphrodite, Venus Aphrodite. They synthesized, they made the two be one. So people get confused with the moon and Venus, but that happened during the time of Caesar.
Real quick, I wonder if we could sorry to interrupt, but you just made me think of something. What if we could find his star chart, and his star chart, the houses of his star chart were linked up to Venus somehow, hence being the son of Aphrodite's, or the personification of Venus, Ishtar, the Eastern star, yes. Lucifer.
Yes, exactly. Lucifer was Venus, indeed.
The most beautiful angel. Wouldn't the most beautiful angel be a woman or a lady or feminine? I would think so.
Yes. Well, but Lucifer has been portrayed or represented by both male and females. So yes, it can get confusing. Like Lucifer is a male, Lucifer, but then Ishtar is Inanna. She's a woman. So yes, it can get confusing. But basically, for example, Muhammad, the Prophet Muhammad, was worshiping in the year 600, around 600 AD. He was worshiping Venus. It's very interesting. So yes, and Venus came close in 531 AD. So that's probably why. And then these politicians change allegiance, just like, you can read I have a lot of examples about these throughout history, how they change allegiance from one to the other. And interesting that they would ask I think it was Julius Caesar. No, that was a different guy. But they would ask their astronomers, and they would say, what is that planet that we are seeing? And then they would tell him, oh, that's the sun. Okay, so then we have to change allegiance from Jupiter, worshiping Jupiter, to worshiping the sun. And they would do that. And you would think, why are they doing that? Like, it's stupid. Why would they do that? That's why. So anyway, so my theory is that, following this pattern, could be that we are getting closer to, the Jupiter kind of area where all these asteroids and moons of Jupiter are located. So then these people know that we are going to encounter more catastrophes, because this is a very planetary populated and area of the solar system. So that is my theory. And it could be, there's so much, I can't tell you, oh, it's this planet or it's that comet, because there's so many, and it could be any of them interacting with Earth and causing problems. That's besides, remember the one we talked about, the Bernardinelli Bernstein, which is a really big, they call it as big as Jupiter. So that's a big dark star, or unlit star, or a brown dwarf star that is not active. It's not showing its display like a brown dwarf star because of where it is located in the solar system, like Jupiter, Neptune, Uranus. There used to be, unlit star, and there are unlit stars, and they're called gas giants, but they were supposed to have been dwarf stars when they came into the solar system until they came into the solar system. So I think that could be happening. And so there is a cycle, you could say there is a cycle. But again, that's why these people have been always prepared, always had throughout time, they always had their underground cities filled with food, filled with provisions for the select or the elect or the elites, and everywhere around the world. And those people would go and take refuge underground while all this stuff is happening outside. And yes, we can prepare. Well, we talk about preparing, how we can prepare, but we don't have the bunkers. We don't have, well, some people do have a small bunker. Some people go and take refuge or had taken refuge in caverns or caves, or when volcanoes are kind of like dormant, they have all these, and like hollow underground spaces where people would survive. That would be the normal common people, not the elites. But people have survived many very big catastrophes that way. But I don't have that, and I bet many of us don't have that. So we don't have the money, and we can prepare for smaller happenstances, like a war, like a tornado, an earthquake, some kind of thing like that, a flood. Well, try not to be on the floodplains. Try always to be higher, on higher ground, because that's very common, flooding, flash flooding. But we have to be prepared spiritually, because this is a spiritual, what they call a spiritual war, or this is a place where, there's more than just the material. We are spiritual beings. So besides trying to prepare physically for what might be coming with, war or civil war or a famine or an earthquake, I realized that I have to be prepared spiritually, because this is not the end. This is just one experience that we have while we're living on this planet. And not to sound, pessimistic, not at all, because we all, like I always say, we all gonna die at some point. Well, unless you think you're going to upload your your mind or your soul to some kind of cloud thing, which I don't want that, and I don't believe in that.
That'd be a
So
trip.
yes, I've been preparing.
Can you imagine, like, your consciousness, you're now in the cloud, like the World Wide Web? That would be, I mean, what would that actually be like? I don't know. I had one experience on Salvia Divinorum, which I think could be similar to the singularity in a very negative aspect. That's what kind of freaked me out with AI so much for so long. But I felt like one of the pod people. I literally felt like I woke up in the Matrix. Like, remember that part where Neo wakes up in the Matrix? But I didn't get the chance to go out of the tube for a while. I was like stuck in infinite. Oh, it was freaky, Tess. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that sounds kind of scary. I don't know. I'm not adventurous that way. I like to do more like just like meditation and try to do
Smart.
lucid dreaming. Yeah, I just respect all of that stuff. I just probably, I don't know, I can't handle it like other people can. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely one way to experience different things. And usually, like you said, it can be very scary, because I think that when you're doing any kind of that thing, your protective barrier comes down, right? So you can experience other stuff that it's beyond your, well, again, I don't think we're just this body. We're not this body. We are experiencing being human on this physical body, but we are energy. We have a soul, or if you believe in souls, or we exist everywhere, like energy, and we're part of God, or the creator of all, which created us. But when you do that while you're having this human experience and lower your psychic walls, then what is out there? What are you going to encounter out there? And maybe something's just trying to, I don't know, experience these bodies, or maybe you get some attachment, or I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's a mystery, right? There's so much that incredible things going on and happening all around us. And but yes, I think that we have to, yeah, just I don't know. It's not easy. It's not easy to say you should do this or you should do that. We all have our path, our mission on this planet. Some people just come to experience, just being wild and experience the craziness, and they're fine with it. They don't need to know the truth. They don't need to look further than their TV and their drinking beer and their sports and porn. They're happy doing that. And some others, we come and we come here and we try to understand, and what's the purpose? Why am I here? What am I doing here? Like, really, what is the purpose? What is the point of it all? So yeah, that's getting a little more philosophical.
What do you think we're here for?
Well, I think, the Buddhist might be correct. I know the New Age has taught us that we want this planet the consciousness is rising, and we want the planet to be beautiful and sort of, grow consciously. I don't know, become a better place. We've been taught that in New Age. But when I'm reading the text of the Buddhist and what I see, and doing, even though I've been doing practices for more than 20 years, like spiritual practices and praying and meditating and doing all this stuff to try to affect the world in a good way, and to have my life also be better. The Buddhists say that this is a place of suffering, and it's just very difficult to not experience suffering. So maybe it's just an experience of, I don't know, freedom of choice, of course. Like, you can always choose. Well, not always, because sometimes they are poisoning us or putting, messages, subliminal messages, or like with the technology now, with radio waves and the Wi-Fi, they can control our emotions and how we feel and our brain. So I don't really know how much there is, freedom of choice, but we can try to do the best. I don't know, maybe it's a test they send us here, something, ourselves or God puts us here on this planet. And there are many theories. And it's like, okay, are you going to see through the veil, through the BS? Are you going to wake up and see that you're being played? Or it's just an experience? And what do you do about the world? Like, how do you act? How do you choose to be? Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's it. Some people say it's growth to become a better soul, or just to learn knowledge. Some people say that it's God experiencing itself because it's just fun. Like, he just takes these shapes, human shapes, to experience what he created. I don't know. I mean, seriously, I don't know what the truth is. I know all these theories, and I'm trying to do my best and to, according to, be a good person, do what's right as much as possible. But yes, I don't know if the planet is all supposed to just bloop one day, be all happy and fine, and ascend into 5D Earth, like you said, or just be all wonderful. I don't know if that is the point of this place. Maybe it's just a place of experiencing good and bad, pain and pleasure and love and hate. And I don't know. What do you think, Rex?
The duality. It's a planet of duality. Absolutely. So if people think that this planet's going to go from 3D to 5D, most people don't even know what 5D actually is. They have their own, well, I mean, you can have your own translation on any words or your own definition, but are you talking fifth dimension? Or are you talking like 5D that you made up in your mind to be more of a peaceful place, so you labeled it as 5D because you think your wildest dreams and most amazing desires are going to come true, and happiness and everything's going to be perfect, and unicorns are going to be like jumping around in the sky, and then gold's going to fall down, and whatever your dream of 5D is. Maybe you in 5D you don't want gold or unicorns. You want something else, so that's 5D. I just, why wouldn't it be like that now? Why? It's a cycle. I see it as duality. That this duality feeds this. That's what keeps the machine going. That's what feeds the machine is duality. So I think our subjective ideas of what positive or negative is also feeding this machine or this reality. And so you have to be real careful what you believe in, because that's going to anchor you on typically one side or the other, unless you somehow figure out a way to go outside of the duality. But I think that this is definitely an experience. You know, you can't, it's certainly an experience. So, or experiences. And the more things change, the more they stay the same. We could probably go back 5,000 years ago, and civilization in many ways was very similar depending on where you were. You know, I think about this, and I'm going to be very light. I'm going to tread very lightly here. But what about women several hundred years ago that would go out in the forest and find, you know, herbs and certain flowers and certain plants and come up with these mixtures that they would use for various purposes. But then when certain ideals and beliefs took over, you had now the King's Guard that could go out and find these poor women that are, you know, they're finding flowers, they're putting together little potions and stuff like that. And maybe there were certain benefits to these potions or these mixtures of different minerals and elements and plants and flowers, etc. They were putting together, mushrooms, whatever, I don't know. But then they were labeled as witches, right? Like, oh, you're a witch. You are a witch. King, she's a witch. Well, let's find out if she's a witch or not. We have ways to do that here. And like, so either way, you're screwed. Like, but then I think of the world today, and you know, it's kind of the same. Like people that want to do their own thing naturally, that don't want to follow the King's Guard's rules and what's right and what's wrong and what you should put in your body and what you shouldn't. Like they'd rather go out and find the natural remedies and stuff. And it's like, well, they're labeled as a conspiracy theorist. They're the modern witch out there. They're the modern bad guy or bad girl, whatever. It's just, I see there's still MFers controlling things at certain levels that they allow, you know, a little bit of leeway, but certain things there's not much leeway. And I have a pretty optimistic outlook in RFK Jr. I was kind of questioning a little bit where he was going to go, but what I see happening, at least what the media is portraying, all these people that are getting fired in certain divisions and stuff like that, I'm like, that's pretty cool. They're getting rid of fluoride out of the drinking water, huh? I think that's kind of cool. I mean, that's my own opinion. Some people might like fluoride in their water. I mean, you can go out and there's actually specific water you can buy that's filtered water with added fluoride for babies. Like, do babies even have teeth typically sometimes? Like, oh, well, they, you know. So anyway, it's just the marketing ploys and these big corporations. You know, I was thinking about it. Like, people are talking now, all these microplastics are all over the place. And, you know, oh, everybody's got microplastics, forever chemicals. Well, it'd be pretty freaking easy to get rid of it. But, you know, I mean, there's only so many people making the crap. There's only so many people making plastic containers, and they're creating the chemicals to make the plastic. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out how to get rid of it, but people still allow it. So, I mean, whatever. Anyway, that's my rant. That's my live action role play here at Leak Project for entertainment purposes only. Everybody,
Yeah.
Rex, I've heard enough. Yeah. Let Tess talk.
Okay, Rex. We heard enough of that ranting.
Yes, enough ranting, Rex. Let's talk about the important stuff. We don't care about plastic, microplastics in our brain.
Well, I just say, yes, be optimistic. What do I say? Prepare for the worst, expect the best.
Right on.
Or is it the other way around? Anyways, expect the best.
Yeah.
Or absolutely. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. But like I said, spiritually, and yes, have some food and water, know how to filter your water, like basic things like that. Leave the big cities if you can. Don't be in Los Angeles.
LA,
or wherever those
amazing.
17,
Tess,
wherever those 17 key places. Don't
33
be
years
there.
ago. 33 years ago, the same, I mean, the riots were going on in LA. Think about that. 33 years ago, Rodney King, and riots 33. Interesting that I've been noticing a lot of King symbology lately. King symbology, and also down with the King symbology in the media and the protests, like certain protests they've got. And then last night, it's so weird. I have synchronicity is abundant. So folks, take these words and listen to them, because it's something's going to happen in the near future with a certain, yeah. So I turn on a movie last night. Have you ever seen The Accountant? The Accountant? Oh, excellent film. Excellent film. Ben Affleck, the original Accountant came out, I think, around 2016. Really liked the film. And then Accountant 2 just came out again, just a couple months ago, and I had a chance to watch it last night on Prime. I watched it on Prime. So I watched The Accountant 2 on Prime. Thought it was a great film, but there was also symbology that seems to be linking up with the synchronicity that I was talking about just a minute ago. And I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not going to go any further into that. So, yeah, but good film, Accountant 2. Tim? Right on. All right. So what are we talking about
You're
now?
cutting out.
I was cutting out. Good.
You were cutting out. It's cutting out.
Probably
Anyways,
good.
well, let me quickly say something before.
We're good.
Before we get disconnected. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So I want to invite people, because I have researched the bloodlines and the Rh negative blood, as you all know, or maybe some of you know. And I want to start a dating site on Telegram for the people that are Rh negative. I know maybe it should be for everyone. I don't know. Maybe it sounds mean, but it's very hard to find people that are Rh negative. So that's why I wanted to do these. There's a lot of sites. So for men and women, and that are Rh negative, and if they want to, they can reach out to me through my contact page on my website and just say, hey, tell me about you. And then I can give them a private link to the Telegram group if they're interested, or just to make people, to meet people, others that are Rh negative, because we are kind of rare. We're not evil. We're not serpents. We're not reptiles, but we are rare. Boring.
I was getting excited. I'm like,
boring.
Not reptile chicks with Rh negative blood. That sounds hot. Totally just lost my fantasy there.
I know. Anyways, yeah, you're a little weird, Rex, but no.
I am weird. I'm weird.
You're cutting out.
Good. I hope I was cutting out when I was just saying a moment ago. That might be good. Interesting how we started cutting out a whole bunch when I started talking about stuff. Maybe that means you're supposed to talk more. All right. So, folks, this is the website, right? This is your website. And then if people want to contact you through the website.
Should we turn the video off?
Can you hear what I'm saying? Can you hear me now?
Should we stop the camera and see if it gets better?
Let's give it a shot. All right.
Okay.
All right. Here we go.
Is it working?
This is the website, contact info, Tess's website, as well as on Odyssey. And let's do this like once a month. And thank you, Angela. Angela says she can hear us both just fine. So I think that it's actually, it might be your internet, Tess. So.
Oh, but we're done, right?
Well, I guess we'll finish. Yeah, let's finish this up.
Up.
So we are going to finish up our conversation now. You want to turn your video back on for just a second so you can tell everybody goodbye. They're going to miss you. Cool. All right. So awesome.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thanks, everyone.
I hope you have a beautiful day. It's great to see you all, and be the change you want to see. We'll see you next time. And check us out over on Patreon. You'll thank me later. Nanny, nanny.